On Tuesday, some great names from the game gathered at Rugby School for the IRB Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Just a few months after such a memorable Lions tour of South Africa, this year's class of inductees was drawn from Lions and Springboks of the past. Beforehand, Gerald Davies gave the inaugural IRB annual lecture on the Lions and the spirit of the game.
Winning can be the first thing when the starting whistle blows. It is and must be the ambition, or why else play the game? Failing to win, however, we must seek promise and consolation elsewhere in a second or third hope. Defeat in a game undoubtedly hurts. It is, after all, a crushed dream.
The first two inductees to the Hall of Fame were responsible for the early growth of the rivalry between British touring teams and South Africa. Scotsman Bill McLagan captained the first tourists in 1891, while Barry Heatley led the Springboks to their first series triumph over the Lions in 1903. He was followed by another South African great, Benny Osler, a masterful fly-half of the 1920s and 30s. The next two inductees toured South Africa together in 1955 and contributed hugely to the sparkling backplay of the Lions. Great Welsh fly-half Cliff Morgan led the line, with Irish winger Tony O'Reilly providing the finishing power out wide. They helped the tourists to a share of the series, destroying the Springboks' aura of invincibility at home, and both men were in attendance at rugby.
We had a Lions backline that certainly was one of the greatest ever in the history of the game. So far as South Africa saw, a game was changed for all time. From attrition, from World War tactics up front, to moving the ball. And Cliff was a catalyst to all of this. It was Cliff's brilliance that made it possible.
Frik is regarded as South Africa's greatest forward, a lock who could kick and run like a back. He won 7 out of his 8 tests against the Lions in 1962 and 1968, and was the most capped Springbok forward to date when he retired in 1971. Unfortunately, family commitments meant du Preez couldn't make it to the ceremony, but he still sent a message.
To the IRB, thank you very much for inviting me to the Hall of Fame. You have honoured me, gentlemen, and I thank you for that.
Ballymena prop Sid Miller is one of Irish rugby's most distinguished servants. He went on 3 Lions tours between 1959 and 1968, and after becoming a coach, took charge of the all-conquering 1974 squad that played such scintillating rugby in South Africa. Miller then became a leading administrator, chairing the IRB before Bernard Lapasset took over the role 2 years ago.
You might be a goodish player and you hang up your boots, and after some years, never having kicked a ball, you become a great player. And a few years after that, still never kicked the ball, become a legend. So I'm waiting for immortality now. That's the next stage of the thing. No, I'm very honoured. I mean, you don't think about this sort of thing when you're playing, and most players don't. But to be on this board along with some of these people is absolutely, wonderful.
The final 2 inductees are 2 of the greatest names to be associated with the Lions. 2 men who played together with the 1974 team in South Africa. Ian McGeechan, who made his debut on that tour and went on to forge a Lions CV like nobody else. This year's trip to South Africa was the 5th time he has coached the Lions. And Willie John McBride, the inspirational Irish lock who captained the Invincibles in South Africa and who still cherishes memories of that tour.
Probably the peak of my career. To be captain of that great team in 74 and to come through that tour unbeaten in 22 games, it really was special, and they were a special bunch of guys. And when I think back now, it's 35 years ago, and they're still a special bunch of guys. They've never changed, and that bond we created in 74 is still there.
For the inductees and for all present, it was an occasion to celebrate both their personal achievements and the unique spirit of the Lions.
Just to be part of something like this is quite phenomenal and fantastic. And when you start a journey like that, you just don't ever believe that you'll be part of a company like this. And thank you for the honour.